Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand for the arrival of the official party. Welcome to the 319th Reconnaissance Wing All Call. I am A1C Evan Meir from the 319th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron, and I will be your MC for today's Wing All Call. We are honored to have several distinguished guests joining us today. The Commander, 319th Reconnaissance Wing, Colonel Timothy Monroe. The Command Chief, 319th Reconnaissance Wing, Chief Master Sergeant Carl Vogel. The Vice Commander, 319th Reconnaissance Wing, Colonel Del Rivera. The Mayor of Grand Forks, Mayor Paczynski. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to all commanders, honorary commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, supervisors, and the men and women of the 319th Reconnaissance Wing. Thank you for attending. First, I'd like to welcome up JAG Representative Lieutenant Colonel Haney from the Legal Office.
I got it better this time. You missed this morning. It took me like a minute to turn the mic on. I am excited to be able to chat with you this afternoon. You just saw the video that said, all we need is the best of you. And from my perspective, as the staff judge advocate, I want to share with you how important you are, and I want to share with you the importance of the impact that you can make, both positive and negative. But from my position as the staff judge advocate, not only do I oversee all of the legal assistance that we provide to deployers before they leave for deployment and make sure that they are taken care of with their wills, their powers of attorney, and any other legal needs that we can help their family with. The other part of my job is to advise the commanders and work with law enforcement on all of the investigations that happen on this installation. And so from my unique perspective of seeing all of the crimes that occur on this installation, I want to talk to you for a moment about the power that you have in impacting our national security. Next slide, please. I want to start for a moment with the highest strategy document that we have, which is our national security strategy. This is the President of the United States laying out for us how we are going to fly, fight, and win in the next and upcoming fights. And in that strategy, he talks about the importance of modernizing and strengthening our military, and that is to make us be lethal and agile. Next, we have the DoD saying, here's how we're going to make sure that we are strengthening the military, and that is to prevent suicide and to eliminate the scourges that are coming from our violent crimes. And then you might think, well, what is the impact for us here, and how can I make a difference? On the bottom right corner, you see these are the crimes that have occurred on the installation, the significant crimes that have occurred on the installation since 2021. I know it's a little hard to see, but on the far left you have 2021, on the far right you have 2023, and the blue is the drug cases that we have had. Did you know within the Air Force, 73% of our drug cases are marijuana cases? We're going to talk about that, as you might suspect, based on my little marijuana yellow arrow. Why I want to talk to you about drugs, why I want to talk to you, the next one over is alcohol in the red. Next one is our violent crimes and sexual assaults. I don't want to talk to you about 2021 and the drug use in 2021 because I looked at the numbers and I know 5 of those actual charges are from 1 airman. So I'm going to disregard that. I also know that in 2022, where we look like it has a very high sexual assault number, that's a little disingenuous because some of those cases came from 2021 and they were prosecuted in 2022. You might say, numbers in 2023 don't look that high, but we're not done with 2023. And I know, based on our investigations and our open cases, those numbers are going up. I also know, based on the numbers, that we have higher rates of drugs and alcohol and domestic violence starting to occur in the fall months. So here's where you can make a difference, and here's why I want to brief this, is because I see the impact that crime has. Even if it is just one crime, I see the impact that comes when we have a drug case or an alcohol DUI conviction, and that is because those in particular trigger your commander to make the decision whether to discharge you from the military. You are important. A loss of one is important and significant. I also see the amount of time that your commanders and first sergeants spend in the legal office to talk about one case. Your one case may take a long time to resolve, and a lot of discussions and a lot of time away from focusing on how we're going to be combat ready to go to the next battle. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the next slide about marijuana in particular, because this is one of the things that is impacting us the most at Grand Forks Air Force Base. Those drug cases on the previous slide were drug use cases. All hemp products are banned for the military. And it's interesting because hemp products otherwise might be okay, certain hemp products might be okay to use in the civilian sector, but they are not okay in the military. And the interesting reason why is the FDA does not regulate those hemp control of those products. So for example, your CBD oils, your hemp protein that might be available in Walmart, the FDA does not regulate those, and those might have some of the tetrahydrocannabinoids, you might know those as THCs, in those products. And so that is why the DoD has banned all of those products. The other interesting thing is we're not seeing as many of those green leafy buds that you may have been used to from the 60s and 70s. Instead, these are derived oils. So you might see it as Delta 8 or Delta 9. Those are the cannabinoids that we need to watch out for. They are labeled. They usually have some clear label on them. So watch out for those, avoid those, because those will be the ones that are going to be flagged. Finally, as I end, I did want to take a moment for something that is near to me, and that is suicide prevention. We just finished Suicide Prevention Month. And what I know from the studies is that 23 to 28% of the military suicides have had some degree of disciplinary action within the last 90 days prior to their death. Airmen facing disciplinary actions face a lot of stress, and they make some poor choices. Even running over the border to North Korea, that member was facing a discharge back in the States. The client, this was my client on the bottom right. I remember the day that I got the call that my client committed suicide. So I don't want to end on the negative note. What I want to do is say, you have the power to make a difference, not only in your own life, but in the lives of your friends. You have the power to avoid drug use. You have the power to notice if your friends are in a bad marriage and having trouble over the winter months. Get them out of the house. You have the power to convince your friends to do better. And you have the power, whether it be as a supervisor or whether it be as an airman and your friend is going through some disciplinary actions. Step up. You make a difference to our national security. You are the ones that can make us lethal and agile and ready for the next fight.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Haney. Next up, we have Safety Office. Please welcome Mr. Swenson.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, we're working, right? Okay. So, wow, we've got a lot going on globally. Great conversations today. Learned a lot about, what adversaries are planning for us. Let's go to the next slide. Let's jump right into it. And earlier today, we talked about the winter, right? So we've got a lot facing our airmen today, day in and day out. There's a lot of stress and stressors. We need every single one of you to show up to work every day and be ready to take the fight to whomever our adversary feels froggy that day, right? We do that in the military through risk management. Not a new phrase. It's been around an awful long time. Most of us overcomplicate the process, or we're afraid of the process. Maybe we're afraid because, well, if I run this risk management model, then it's just going to tell me no. Well, why would I want to be told no, so I'm just not going to run the RM model? I'm here to tell you that what I'm asking everyone to do is run that simple process. Think about the things that you're about to get yourself involved in, whether it be on duty or off duty, and apply good, sound risk management in all of those processes. Next slide, please. And it's as simple as this. In the bottom left, I've got some things to remember, right? So the first step in any good RM process is trying to figure out, what is my plan? I've told everybody today that, you know, we've got catchphrases that will stop bad things from happening. You're in the middle of a process, things are about to go south, and you hear stop it, you hear knock it off, you hear time out, you hear save, save, save if you're in an exercise, and then we call a stop to it, we look at it, we reevaluate it, and then we get back after business. But I encourage everyone to do what usually happens to me, and it was when my teenage daughter was still in my house and I would have this bad plan and I would tell her what I was about to do, and she'd go, wait, what? What are you planning on doing? And I'll be like, all right, that's not right. And so what we want you to do is make that plan, but you got to share it. Sometimes the plan, it seems all right in your head because you've run the numbers and you can get there. I got this. You need to share it with a coworker. You need to share it with a family member, because a lot of times they're going to be the honest broker in the process, and they're going to say, wait, what? What do you want us to do? What do you plan on doing? What are you going to do with that ladder? You know, how long are you planning on driving? Don't you know there's a blizzard outside? So we want you to share that plan so you can get that honest feedback. And it's not so you can hear no, but it's so that you can what's the word I'm looking for? You can invite others into your process to help you decide what that next best step is. And then the second to last thing is pack for that plan, right? So make sure you're equipped with everything that you're going to need to make that trip, if it's, you know, to Minneapolis or to Canada or where, maybe you're going to go home to the East Coast for the holidays. Make sure that you're packed appropriately for the trip, not just the destination. It's not good enough to go, I'm going to Florida, all I need are my sandals, right? No, you need everything that's going to get you there. And then have a backup plan. If life has taught me nothing, it's that, every good laid out plan rarely survives first contact, right? You know, you're all packed, everyone's gone to the bathroom, you're headed to the car, and then something happens. And it eats up about a half hour of your time that you were planning to be on the road, and now you got to make a decision. Do we go? Do we stay? You know, do I try and beat my best time there? Probably not. You know, what's the weather like? Or do we just flat out call it off, right? But RM needs to be this simple. When we apply RM to complex processes, it's a complex process. We'll bring a bunch of experts into the room and we'll talk about step A through Z. And we'll figure out where that critical point is. But most of the time in our day-to-day lives, it should be as simple as probably a 3-step process. Assess the situation, consider what your options are, and then take action, right? It's pretty simple. ACC's got a couple of those phrases. Check 3, right? You know, gear plans, and then forget the last one. It's a test. It's a test. Anybody got the check 3? Any answers? Yeah. There you go. I got a coin for you, but they're cheating. They're in my safety office. All right, so enough said about RM. All I want everyone to walk away with this is there is a plan, there is a process, there is help. Make sure as we sludge through the snow that's going to come, through the winter as it's going to come, as Afrigen as it's going to come, and everything that the UEI as it's going to come, make sure that you're making sound decisions, and those 4 things, I guarantee you, will help you get through it. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Next, we have Ms. Grove from the Integrated Resilience Office.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So what I have for you today is a couple minutes to talk about how not just to survive through this winter, but thrive. So if we can go on here. So we're going to focus on the comprehensive airman fitness model, which is the 4 domains you see up there: the physical, social, mental, and spiritual. If we only focus on one of those domains, and we're extremely strong in one, but weak in the other 3, we're not going to thrive as well as we could have if we really are even mediocre in all 4, right? It's not a one part, they make up us, right? So if we focus on all 4, we're going to be the best we can be so that we can arrive for ourselves, for our coworkers, for our families, for our friends. So the first one there, physical. Physical might be things like sleep. I know you guys might not want to hear that, right? Because sleep is not necessarily a great data point that we get enough of. But sleep can make wonders to things. It might be nutrition, it might be going to the gym, or getting outside and doing those type of fitness activities. Social. From a social standpoint, I'm going to challenge you all to get out and do things. Stay active through the winter, stay engaged. And a tip I can tell you is if you focus on do something, set something up each week that you are going to look forward to, pretty soon, week by week, the winter is going to be gone and it's going to be spring. If you focus right now on spring, winter's going to take a long time, or it's going to feel that way. So if you take me up on that and do that, I promise you it will go faster than if you don't. Mental, that might be getting outside and soaking up that sunlight. Some of you have not been here a winter and have maybe heard some horror stories or stories of people are like badges of honor. I've made it through the winter of whatever winter you might want to claim as the worst. You might not be thinking you want to ever be outside in the winter, but I promise you there's going to be good days, there's going to be days you just want to bundle up and stay inside and cozy. On the days that it's amazing outside, get out there and enjoy it. Get on your snowsuits, build that snowman, go sledding, go cross-country skiing, do whatever it is. Getting outside, getting that fresh air, sunshine will do you wonders. If you can't get outside, or it's not sunshiny enough for you when you can get outside, get a happy lamp. That will also can replace some of that vitamin D that we otherwise normally get in the summer around here with the sunshine, and can help our mood. And of course, if we can't, if all those things just aren't quite enough, we also have plenty of resources, right? We can reach out to our MFLAC, our mental health, chaplains. We have all those resources as well. And then spiritual. Spiritual may be going to prayer services or chapel services. It may be something else for you. Basically, finding that activity that aligns with your purpose. Okay? Finding that sense of purpose, and it might be through volunteerism, or it might be through one of the other things listed. Last thing I want to talk to you about today is our Get Connected app. If you don't already have that downloaded, please do. You will want this. You'll get lots of notifications on there as well. But the other thing that's on this app are wing events. You'll see lots of wing events on there. And there are actually two calendars, I believe. There's a wing events calendar and an FSS calendar. Between those two, if you check those out, you will stay up to date on all of the happenings going on across the 319th Reconnaissance Wing. A few are noted up here. The end of October here, we have Liberty Scare happening at Liberty Square. We have the Soup Supper coming up in the beginning of November. There's an Airman versus NCO dodgeball tournament. And then in December, we have some holiday tree lightings and North Pole parties. I promise you that is just a couple of things I picked out to highlight, and there are many more. The very last thing I'll mention is the other circle over here, the base clubs. That are really informal clubs that are happening on base, that are just a way to connect with others that enjoy the same things you do. It could be anything from a wrestling club, a volleyball club, a crochet club, there's a Planty Parents group for people that are able to grow things. There are a plethora of options out there, and if you don't find what you want to start your own, get with me, call me up, and I'm happy to help you do that. So with that, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Grove. Next, we have a representative from the IG office, Lieutenant Colonel DeRazio.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I don't normally get invited to commander's calls for whatever reason, but the reason I'm invited to the IG or to this commander's call is because we have the UEI coming up. Hopefully you all know that in a little over a week, and there are a few things that we can do to put our best foot forward. This isn't about trying to paint the grass green or sweep stuff under the rug, but this is about presenting ourselves in the way that we should be presenting ourselves at all times. And I gave the analogy this morning, when you go to the dentist, you don't want to hide your cavities from the dentist, but you want to brush your teeth before you go. So this is what we're going to do before the UEI. The UEI is a pretty big deal. Unit effectiveness inspection happens once every couple of years. So let's make sure we put our best foot forward. The first tip I have for you, take pride in being an airman. This is the easy stuff. It's the back to basic stuff. Practice your good customs and courtesies. Look at your uniform. Take a look at your patches or your lanyards. Are they appropriate? Are they authorized? If not, then fix them. Do this on and off base. Make sure you're representing your military and your profession in a positive light. Okay. Second, I want to talk. Well, you're going to hear a little bit more about the mission later on, but understand how your job links to that mission. First off, understand your job and know how to do it. Ask yourself how that links to the mission, and then you can ask yourself how our mission as a wing links to our strategic strategies, the NDS. If you don't know that, you've got a week to find it out, and be ready to give some examples. So if an inspector asks an example of how your job relates to our greater mission, pull some out from your past experiences or notionally from what is yet to come in the future fight. All right, finally, communicate during the capstone. So a few of you will be identified for ACC IG sensing sessions. I'm not talking about those specifically when I say this, but for other aspects of the inspection, we're not going to do perfect. There's going to be problems with what we're doing. Inspectors are less concerned about finding our problems. They're more concerned about understanding that we know what our problems are. So make sure you understand what your job is. Make sure you understand where you are not meeting the regulation or the instruction. I said this morning as well, but you can probably remember at the top of every AFI, there's a sentence: compliance with this publication is what? Mandatory. Not everybody is going to be able to comply with everything in every publication. So we're going to have some deficiencies. When you're having your discussions with inspectors and you realize that that there's probably going to be some deficiencies that come out of that inspection, please pass that up the chain. Please notify your immediate supervisors and your officers, your command team. Make sure they're not surprised by an item of non-compliance when the inspection is done. All right, and finally, you've got a pretty good resource with the ACCIG team here. We're looking at roughly 70 people. All of them have a great deal of expertise in their jobs, so pick their brains, find out what they have seen that works well, try to improve your own unit with that. IG team here on base, your wing IG team is always available for any questions. If you have them, please feel free to reach out to us. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Orazio. Now from OSI, we have Special Agent Lopez.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm here to talk about the criminal threat assessment for the local area. Good thing for you guys is that it's low. The only thing that we have to advise you is just keeping your personal belongings out of sight of your car. That will help limit break-ins, and then how you guys portray yourself out in the public. People know you're military by your haircut, the way you act, stickers on your vehicles, all that good stuff. Next slide. The JAG office already covered all of this earlier, and she did a better job than I probably could, but THC is bad. Even if it's sold locally, don't do it. And with the inter-partner violence, if you guys need to be checking on each other. If you see anything, let your supervisors, commanders, first sergeants, you can let us know, you can let anybody on base know, and they'll point you to the right direction. Besides that, that's it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Special Agent Lopez. Upcoming, we have from our very own Intel office, Major Simons, to give us a quick unclassified mission update.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Major Jordan Simons. I'm your Director of Intelligence here at Grand Forks Air Force Base, and my intent today is to prep you for the guidance you're about to see from Colonel Monroe by providing Intel's perspective on the threat and why you should care. And so fundamentally, as the President has stated, the fight against China is a competition between democracies and autocracies. Ever since the end of World War II, the United States has been propelled forward as the world's global superpower, and us and our allies have been the global stabilizing force and also supporting democracies across the world. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Our rights guaranteed by the Constitution that we hold so dear, like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion, are not guaranteed in autocratic societies like communist China. And I want to be very, very clear with you right now that this fight is not against the people of China, normal people like you and I. This is against the Communist Party of China. Just to give you some perspective of what it's like to live in China, the minority Muslim population called Uyghurs, about 12 million people, well, about 1 million of them are being held in re-education camps, or also known as concentration camps, in Western China. They're subject to public executions, and their women, many of them are forced to be sterilized or receive forced abortions. For normal, average Chinese ethnic citizens, they're subject to the CCP surveillance state. And what that means is Chinese Communist Party is always watching the citizens to monitor for crime and cracking down on dissidents. As an example of what that could look like, if you're a citizen in China and you commit a crime like jaywalking across the street, by the time you finish crossing the road, you'll get a text message from your phone saying that you have committed a crime, you've been penalized, and that money's been already deducted from your account. In addition, you've been subtracted social credit points. Enough of these points get detracted from your account, you're no longer able to purchase travel tickets, no longer able to buy property, get a loan, send your kids to school, or eventually even buy groceries. And if you want to see how China views itself in relation to the rest of the world, all you have to do is compare how China's treating its neighbors, much smaller nations in the Pacific. If you go to the first slide, please, in the bottom left-hand side, I know it's a little bit washed out, but that dotted line shows China's territorial claims in the South China Sea, where they are building up islands to enforce those territorial claims. Small nations like Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia are harassed by China every single day, and normal fishing vessels are harassed daily by Chinese Navy, being directed to move to other waters, facing water cannons where they're getting hit in the face by Chinese naval vessels and forced to move their fishing operations elsewhere. That region is also incredibly rich in natural resources. Looking at China's claims to Taiwan, at the end of World War II, there was a revolution in China, a civil war, and the Republic of China, the Democratic Society of China, fled and established what is called the nation of Taiwan now. Ever since they fled mainland China, it has been a 100 years goal for the Communist Party of China to reintegrate the Taiwanese population into mainland China. Those are ethnic Chinese people, and it's a matter of national pride for China to reintegrate those people into the Communist Party. In addition to the nationality of Taiwanese citizens, Taiwan is also the largest producer of semiconductor chips in the world. Over 60% of the world's semiconductor chips are produced by Taiwan, and over 90% of the most advanced ones in the world. So what I am saying is the components that fuel the most advanced technology in the world, to include the supercomputers in your pockets, are almost certainly produced by Taiwan. So why is China pushing this now? Well, like I mentioned, it's getting towards the end of their 100-year plan, which is called National Rejuvenation, target of 2049. However, why is the United States suddenly shifting our focus to China and Taiwan? We're going to narrow that down to 3 factors. Number 1, President Xi Jinping, who is the leader of China. He's built a cult of personality very similar to that of Mao Zedong, and he has consolidated in an unprecedented manner power within China. He actually holds the top 3 government positions in China right now. He has solidified his legacy in the party. He's also reaching the age limit for average Chinese male. That's 78 years old. Xi Jinping turned 78 in 2031. Chinese demographics, if you look at the bottom right-hand side of that slide, you'll see that their population is about to turn upside down, or that there is a significant portion of the population, because of China's one-child policy, that are over the age of 60, which is, yes, is a financial burden, a huge financial burden on the economy, but also significantly decreases the number of military-age males who are available to fight. Lastly, if you go to the next slide, please, China's modernization. China's significant modernization goals are assessed to be complete in the year 2027, and that's where they will meet parity or be very shortly behind us in all of these military capacities. But where they exceed us is in numbers. And so what this depicts is our strength versus China's strength in 2025. And if you could see the red on the graphic, it shows how far China is able to push us out. So the next 5 to 6 years, 2025 to 2030, is kind of that do or don't from China, which is why we're talking about ACE. What I also wanted to point out to you guys is when we talk about ACE, you need to pay attention to the ballistic missile threat. That is what is of most concern, and that's what's driving the ACE policy. If you guys have any questions, I'm available. My team is available. Please reach out to your Directorate of Intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Major Simons. Next, we have a short video to present about readiness.
Our world is changing. For 20 years, we thought in permissive environments.
Global connectivity allows people, societies, economies, and countries to interact at the speed of light.
Our adversaries leverage this connectivity and spread disinformation, target transparent, free, and open societies to stoke chaos, fear, and division.
Our warfighters control every step of time, meaning we control the outstep of. We inform, we deter, and we engage on our timeline. The wars of the future, we won't have such luxury. Thus, our way must change.
The information environment is our battlespace, and 16th Air Force is the competition force.
Airmen will be multi-key, trained to excel outside their primary duties, like recovering, rearming, refueling, and launching different aircrafts. We look forward with agility. Agile combat deployment means striking hard and fast, minimizing our time within enemy range. Agile and predictable for us, deadly and unpredictable for adversaries. Crisis and competition are the norm, so we will be ready for crisis before crisis. Ready establish an immediate effort before it's needed. Our when, why, and how has changed. Our world has changed. And we must change to meet the challenge or lose.
I would like to welcome to the stage our Command Chief, Chief Master Sergeant Carl Vogel.
Good afternoon, 319th. All right. So the boss and I have been in the seat now for about 100 days. We've been sprinting. It's been a good time. We've gotten around to a lot of places, but I know we haven't really made introductions to everyone, so we're going to start with a quick intro. The things that aren't on my bio, I've been married 16 years, and I've been with my wife for 18 years. We have 2 kids, Logan and Molly, and our dog Phil. We bring him with us everywhere we go around the world. And my wife said something interesting the other day. She said, our relationship is now as old as your youngest airman, and that's it's pretty eye-opening. So for us as a family, Grand Forks was actually #1 on our list when we got our assignment preferences, and that's for a few reasons. For me, I always look at 2 things. When I talk about what makes me tick and what registers on my give a crap meter, I'm talking about airmen and mission. So for the airmen, I looked at it as a huge opportunity to grow community. We've been stationed at a few small bases throughout our career, and we really enjoyed it. For the mission, you know, I've worked as a weapons loader on F-15s. I've worked in intel. So I've worked around aircraft, never an RQ-4, and I've worked some of the intel missions attached to what we do, but never directly with it. And I saw it as an opportunity just to learn more and grow and get out of my comfort zone a little bit, and quite frankly, to work with an array of AFSCs that I haven't worked with before. For the family, my wife really enjoys being at a tight-knit community in a small base, and she was excited to come here. My kids, you know, they spent a long time in Texas, not a lot of snow. They were really excited to see pictures of Grand Forks and snow, and they're like, yeah, let's get some snow. They will get all the snow they ever dreamed of, I imagine, in the next 2 years. Slide. So this is a quick update on enlisted force development. So the boss and I went to AFA, went to a Air Force-wide wing commanders and command chief conference where we got some updates of what's coming up. So right off the bat, digital WAPS testing is coming. So long gone are the tests of the 90s where you take your #2 pencil and you fill in the bubble and you got to do it again because your bubble's not dark enough, and they scan it in and it comes back, and no more of that. We've entered the digital age, and for those who are going to be WAPS testing in 2024, it'll be digitally. It's about time. Now, next up for big changes is the NCO Academy. So the NCO Academy, the way that they're going to start selecting individuals to attend class is more like how the Senior NCO Academy accomplishes this. So currently, with the current process at the NCO Academy, you can go in, you sign up, but what's happening is a lot of folks are going, and they have around 8 to 12 years in service, and they're separating sometime after, and the Air Force is looking at it like from a return on investment standpoint. So Master Sergeant Selects will actually be the top of the list for those being selected for NCO Academy, because with that promotion to Master Sergeant comes a service commitment. So that return on investment is there. And there'll only be 2 CONUS locations for the NCO Academy. That'll be at Lackland and McGee-Tyson Air National Guard Base in Tennessee. We also have foundations courses. So what you know as the PES classes. So when we have our folks make Staff Sergeant and Master Sergeant that go through an NCO Professional Enhancement Seminar, or a PES, and then the Senior NCO PES. Well, those are going to be replaced with classes in this line of what are called foundations courses, and I'll just walk you through what that looks like. The 100 level is going to be administered at basic training. The 200 level, that class will be given to airmen when they're going through tech school. The 300 level will be a prerequisite for ALS, and the 400 will be administered at ALS. And that continues on through the next, where the next one's a prerequisite for NCOA, and the following at the 600 is at NCOA, and so on. And at the top left, you'll see Prepping the Line. Prepping the Line is a course for new frontline supervisors. This could very easily been an Air Force-wide course where they say we're going to, control it at the Barnes Center. Like these foundation courses, they're written and codified at the Barnes Center, so that curriculum is set in stone. With the foundations courses, they have an outline, but it's up to the squadrons to administer it to the airmen. Why? Because of what a frontline supervisor does and what they look like in security forces is probably a little bit different than CE, probably a little different than medical. So it allows squadrons to really tailor that training at the squadron level. Slide. All right, Chiefs in Charge. This is a program that Colonel Monroe and I set up when we got here, and I know what you're thinking, it is intentionally redundant, right? Chiefs in Charge. And the point of it really is to have kind of a bumper sticker, something you can remember, something that sticks in your head, because it's reinforcing your senior enlisted as change agents, as problem solvers, and as culture owners. We're here to expedite change. So we're going to improve the quality of life and solve readiness problems, and really the goal is to cut through bureaucracy. It's to cut through red tape. So solving problems at whatever level, and if money is needed for that, we can expedite that process as well. So some recent wins that we've had, sponsorship packages. So new airmen coming in, they get a sponsorship package from their sponsor. Talking to some new airmen who saw there was very different, varying, outdated, old, sometimes flat out wrong information coming from those sponsorship packages, right? So all of your SELs, the SELs from every squadron came together, put all of their sponsorship packages together. We updated all the information, and we're providing a standardized, up-to-date, relevant sponsor package that's standardized for every unit in the wing. Now, every squadron can add to it if they have specifics that they need. Let's say you're CE or your maintenance and you have work that you do outside, you need cold weather gear, you shoot stuff like that, little things that are specific to your squadron, you can add on to that. But there's a foundational package that's going to be the same for every unit in the wing, and it's going to be updated several times a year. Some other things that affect readiness that we were able to update and change, the cell phone extenders. So we can get range extenders for the dorms. There was concerns where airmen in the dorm rooms, if there's an emergency and they need to call for help or reach someone else in another dorm, they had 0 bars. They couldn't call out. And to me, it's just a quality of life thing too, to have cell phone reception where you live. So when money comes down, we prioritize where the money goes. So a boiler probably takes priority over a cell phone extender when it comes to the money that CE gets, right? Well, through Chiefs in Charge, we're able to cut through some of that red tape and get some of the wing money to get those dorm cell phone extenders. We did the same thing for defibrillators for ALS. So every time you take a PT test, there has to be a defibrillator on site. Well, now every airman that goes through ALS has to take a PT test. And they were borrowing the defibrillator from the gym. Well, now only one of those places can conduct PT tests at any given time. So that was easy for us to jump in and say, hey, we can expedite this process and fund it. And as well as fire safety gear for medical folks that are augmenting with the fire station. So to get gear specific to their needs to jump in and help, again, it's one of those things where the funding process was long and arduous and it wasn't higher on the priority list, so we were able to jump in and make that happen. For quality of life issues, we're looking at NFL Sunday ticket at the club. So we were able to jump in and help make that happen, and the folks at the FSS were great about getting that across the finish line. So now every Sunday, you have every game every Sunday in the club. And coming soon, we're going to have E4 and below Halloween Bash. Senior Boyd's going to get the word out on that, and we're going to be able to fund that and get that going as well. So all that to say, keep that in mind, Chiefs in Charge. If you have a problem that needs a solution, we can expedite that for you. Grab the nearest chief and we'll make it happen. Slide. All right, so my last piece here is about community, and it's intentional, right? So we're heading into the winter, we're heading into the holidays. We just deployed 100 of our airmen, and we're getting ginned up on this cycle. And I want to share with you a little personal story about why community really matters to me and why this is important to get this messaging out. Years ago, I was a staff sergeant at a GSU in England. I deployed to Afghanistan while my wife was pregnant. She was in her 3rd trimester. So I'm away from home. and she's away from her family in a different country. My son Logan, our firstborn, he was born while I was still in Afghanistan. So military members at our base, they went with my wife to all her medical appointments. And that was not easy because the maternity doctor that she had to go see was 3.5 hours away. We're at a GSU. We're out in the middle of nowhere. They helped her with housework, they helped her with yard work. A master sergeant from our unit took a few of his airmen, came to our house, and when we had the furniture delivered for the nursery, they came over and assembled all the furniture and put together and painted the nursery and everything. And then a couple of spouses from our unit actually traveled with her. So when you're at a GSU and you're 3.5 hours away from the nearest maternity ward, they actually move you down there. And she moved into this hotel room for 2 weeks up until she had the baby that was 3.5 hours away from home. And these two spouses came with my wife, lived with her in that hotel room, and they were in the room when my son was born. We had no video capability where I was at with JSOC in Afghanistan, but I was on a DSN line and got to hear it. Those were hard times. That was a stressful deployment, and those were stressful family times. But that community, that resilient community, it boosted our resiliency, and that kept me in the fight. Hard times are inevitable. Some of us haven't been through the North Dakota winter. Holidays are coming. It's relevant to airmen in the dorms, it's relevant to families. We have deployments and times when people get down. But that's why we build community. We've seen great examples here at Grand Forks, but I think there's room to grow. We have the chiefs in charge, and we have the Griffin Council, which, if you're not familiar, the Griffin Council is comprised of every private org on this base. And those two organizations, I've charged them with being focused on building a resilient community across this base. On HAF's latest spectrum of resilience, community encompasses 3 of the 5 pillars and is essential to the health of the other 2 pillars. I think we have some opportunities. At the club, we have karaoke almost every week. There are First Fridays where you can come and challenge Colonel Monroe to a game of crud. I will tell you, though, watch out for his elbows. We have Sunday Ticket, like we mentioned before. We also have trivia nights. And downtown, for our folks at the Off Base, we have great events downtown in Grand Forks. We have a community that cares about us, and we have civic leaders that care. These are good examples, but you have to feed the fire. You can't just rest on these things that are there. You have to jump in. The future of this community is up to you. It's your turn. You can get involved in the Airmen's Council, the 5-6, the Top 3, the CGO Council, help plan things. We can do better than 8% involvement, which is where we're at. About the same 10 people plan all the events around this base. I think we can get involved and build a tight-knit community here a little bit more than we're doing. But that being said, I consistently see NCOs and senior NCOs bringing their airmen and their subordinates to events around the base for the first time. I run into people who say, this is my first ALS graduation, or this is my first Friday and I brought my team of airmen from my work center. We wanted to check it out. This is my first Air Force ball. That's a step in the right direction. We need to keep going. Get out of your comfort zone. I can tell you the discomfort is temporary when you're a part of a resilient community. If you heard me speak at different events, I talk a lot about intrusive leadership, about leadership beyond the surface level, about beyond how was your weekend, about really getting to know your people. And I can tell you, it matters the most when we're talking about frontline supervisors. But intrusive leadership doesn't feel as intrusive when you have a tight-knit community. At that point, it's just taking care of people. This community is my Air Force family. Join us, I invite you. Together we can overcome hard times and face any challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Vogel. Now for our very own wing commander, please welcome Colonel Monroe.
All right, if you would, please stand up. We're going to stretch the legs. Our wing IG just a minute ago came up here and told you that we've got a unit effectiveness inspection that's going to roll into town in a little over a week. When you have an inspector that comes and speaks with you, it would behoove all of us to make sure that we make a good first impression. So what the chief and I are going to do is we're going to demonstrate for you, and then we're going to practice it together, how we collectively are going to introduce ourselves to the inspectors. It's 3 really simple parts. Give them a verbal greeting, tell them who you are, and tell them what you do. This is my inspector, and this is what this sounds like. Chief, welcome. Really glad to have you at Grand Forks Air Force Base. I'm Colonel Tim Monroe, and I'm the wing commander. I want you to practice that for 1 minute. For those I haven't met, I'm Colonel Tim Monroe. I'm the 319th Reconnaissance wing commander, and today is a great day to be a Griffin. I've got about 20 minutes worth of prepared remarks for you, but before I get started, I want to thank our civic leaders for coming out for their first ever Air Force Commander's Call, as I understand it. And I think that that's a great thing. Let me tee up for you what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, because it's important that we share the mental model on what our wing's about to walk through. Once we're done today, I'm going to leave here, and I'm hopeful that I see a lot of you at the club, because I'm going to go blow off a little bit of steam, and yes, I will be at the crud table, and no, I don't throw elbows. We've got a 3-day weekend, but while most of you are going to be relaxing on that 3-day weekend, there are going to be a lot of people flying into Grand Forks to participate in the UAS Magazine's sponsored 17th Annual UAS Summit. With that brings some pretty important visitors to the state of North Dakota and our community. We're going to have 2 U.S. senators who are bringing with them the Chief of Space Operations, General Chance Saltzman, and the Acting Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General Dave Alvin, who was a squadron commander here on this installation a number of years ago. Their spouses will be with them. The Air Force A-8 Lieutenant General will also be with them, and they're going to bring a sizable delegation of staff members. Tuesday morning, we're going to be really busy supporting them down at the UAS Summit. But by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, all of those individuals will visit Grand Sky on the other side of the base, and then they will come here. It's very rare that you get 2 service chiefs in the same place at the same time. Let them see your very best. Let's show them what we're made of. And let's show them why it's a great day and a great time to be a Griffin. Immediately after the UAS Summit, when they depart Wednesday morning, the very first of the Air Combat Command Inspector General team will show up here. The first part will be very, very small. It'll just be a few. They're going to make sure that the building's set up, they can get logged in and connected, and then they're going to start doing sensing sessions. So if you've been notified that you're going to participate in one of those, that is a mandatory event. We will clear all of your professional obligations so that you can show up and talk to those inspectors. A week from this Sunday, the rest of the team shows up. We are estimating somewhere in the range of about 70 people total. That is a significant event for this installation. These inspections happen once every 2 years. We had to slip it a little bit this time because I'm the new guy on campus. But they are going to look at just about every single thing that we do on this installation. Your squadron commanders and their respective senior enlisted leaders are sitting down here in front. I asked them to do that for a couple of reasons, one of which I'll talk on when we get to our strategy, but the other piece is these are the folks that have been passing messages from myself down to all of you to make sure that you are ready to go for this inspection. And once we get on the back side of that, then we're going to soar into the holidays, and the rest of the year is going to fly by pretty quick. Be ready for those things. It's okay to be proud of who you are and what it is that you do. But I want to make sure that we set a very clear tone with folks that come onto this installation. This is our home, and we're proud of the mission that we execute in this wing. Let's go to the next slide. Just like the chief introduced himself, I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that matter to me in my own professional and personal life. You can read a lot of what I've done in my own bio, but family is the reason that I get to put the uniform on every day. They just happen to be sitting right over here, which is pretty cool. I told the group this morning, we had about 600 folks, give or take, in this room. When my wife Jenny and I got married, I had graduated. 2 weeks later, she had graduated. 2 weeks after that, we found ourselves getting married, and then 2 weeks later, we were in the Air Force. I've known all 22 years of my military service with her. We've got 2 boys, Jack and Wyatt, 16 and 11. That's the reason that I get up and put my uniform on every day. I hope you know what your purpose is, because when you find that purpose, it will help motivate you in the good times and in the hard times. They're the people that encourage me when the days are really long and the nights are really short. Next slide. This is your leadership team. The things that I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides are because we have listened to direct feedback from all of you on the things that you need to hear from the senior leaders of our organization to help connect what you do professionally to the things that we collectively do on behalf of our nation's defense. And it starts with this. This is your chain of command. We work for you, so we play with the slide a little bit to make sure that you understand we are here to help you get your job done. That's what I get paid for. I get paid to solve problems. But I can't solve problems if I don't know what those problems are. And I can assure you, these commanders and senior enlisted leaders that are sitting down here are eager, ready, able, and willing to help you reach your fullest potential. But I can tell you a couple of things. None of us are perfect people. I hope you don't expect that of us. But we are accountability partners. They hold me accountable, I hold them accountable, and I would ask that all of you, in the way that you communicate with us, tell us where we can help you so that collectively we are an accountable team that can move, fly, and fight faster. We work for you. Next slide. There are 4 important missions that our wing conducts. Some of it we do here, some of it we do from other parts around the globe, and I'm going to show you that global map on the very next chart. But let me unpackage for you for just a moment the important critical missions that the 319th Reconnaissance Wing is tasked with. And we'll start in the top left. We operate the RQ-4 Global Hawk. I'm new to this enterprise, but I am super proud to be part of the Global Hawk enterprise. My hope is you've seen the airplane flying around the installation, but oftentimes, once that airplane takes off, it gets to high altitudes and you don't hear it and you don't see it. It's about 137 feet wide. It's bigger than the 737 that you occasionally will take to travel around the country. It flies at super high classified altitudes, and it carries a sensor suite on the bottom that is critical to the competition that we are involved in, both in the Pacific and in the European theater. We have airmen from this wing today that are deployed or permanently assigned in the Pacific and in the European theater, operating the Global Hawk. It is an incredible time to be part of this enterprise, and it's one of the 4 important missions that we conduct both from here and around the globe. Let's go to the top right. A critical piece of what we do to fly remotely piloted aircraft is you've got to be able to connect with an airplane that doesn't actually physically have a pilot sitting in a cockpit. How do you do that? It goes through a really complicated cyber system to satellite relay dishes that are located in a couple of places around the world. Then a signal gets beamed up to geosynchronous satellites and down to the airplane. And then you got to reverse that whole trip to make sure that the airplane's doing what you asked it to do. We operate 2 of the 3 satellite relay stations around the globe, one in the Pacific, one in the European theater. Their squadron commanders are sitting right here, and their senior enlisted leaders are with them because yesterday we had a leadership on-site. We flew them from the Pacific and from Europe to be here for this occasion. That is a national security priority. We do it for the Global Hawk, we do it for the MQ-9 Reaper, and we do it for classified mission partners. That's a big deal. And the bottom left, we operate the high-frequency global communication system. This is a uniquely qualified, very small enterprise that conducts that mission from 2 locations. One is Grand Forks Air Force Base, and the other is Andrews Air Force Base just outside Washington, D.C. You drive past the building that we do this mission in every day, but they are by definition quiet professionals. That mission ensures that our chain of command, all the way up to the President of the United States, the Vice President, and the Secretary of Defense, have the ability to connect and communicate anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. A lot of the rest of what they do is classified, but that's an important part of the mission that we project from this installation. On the bottom right, the newest piece of our mission is the E-11 Battlefield Airborne Communications Node, the Beacon. We assumed responsibility for this mission in February of this year. It's brand new, but you're not going to see the airplanes on the flight line out here, because just like several of these other components, they are geographically separated from this installation. All of our partners that fly the E-11, and their squadron commander sitting right down here, they operate from Robins Air Force Base, which is about 90 miles south of Atlanta, Georgia. They belong to us. This is our team. An easy way to remember the Beacon mission is Wi-Fi in the sky. It's an executive jet, super fancy, but there's nothing fancy in the back end of this airplane. We rip it all out and we put in radio racks and things that help to connect the disparate capabilities that are in the battle space. It could be a soldier that's on the ground, it could be a ship on the water, or it could be another airplane that's in the air. That's an important part of what we do from a strategic perspective, and it's an important part of what we do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Next slide. This is where we operate. Let's start over here on the right side. That's the Pacific Theater. The main operating base that we have in the Pacific is Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. We've got several hundred folks that are living there right now. They had a really rough go earlier this year because a major typhoon didn't pass through once, it passed through twice. Went across part of the island, turned around and came back across the island. It did significant damage. The chief and I prioritized going there for our very first trip, and there were still piles of trash everywhere. Our team did really, really well getting operations back up to speed, but when we are not operating from there during the typhoon season, we move all the airplanes up to Dakota Air Base, which is about a 2-hour drive northwest of Tokyo, Japan. That satellite relay station that I mentioned to you, that belongs to the squadron commander, and that satellite relay station is located at Kadena Air Base on the island of Okinawa. Let's shift over to the European theater. We operate from Naval Air Station Sigonella. We are also co-located there with the NATO version of the RQ-4, or the NATO AGS system is what they call it. A great synergistic opportunity to interoperate with our NATO partners. But between those two different operating locations in the Pacific and the European theater, our wing is squarely involved in great power competition against China and Russia. That's an honorable thing, and all of you help to execute those missions day in and day out. And then, as I mentioned to you, the E-11 is located at Robins Air Force Base down outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Next slide. A couple of strategic priorities that the service is working its way through right now, and all of these things are going to affect us in some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to talk to you about all of these things, but thank you for building that out. But I do want to plant the seed that this is part of the conversation, and these are the things that we are going to enact as part of our wing because it aligns to bigger Air Force initiatives. The first is Air Force Force Generation. This is a different way that we are going to generate and present combat credible forces to the Joint Force. So that's in conjunction with all of our partners from the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Space Force. This is our piece of this. This is a tidal shift for what we do as an institution. And it started 7 days ago on the 1st of October. The Chief and Colonel Rivera and I stood right here on this floor and talked to about 100 of your colleagues that are now packing up and working their way out the door. Today, I went through a mock deployment line and got issued a weapon so that I could see how that process worked, because all of those folks are getting on that 5 a.m. Delta flight out of Grand Forks, North Dakota, and they're taking their personal gear and their weapon and they're flying to somewhere else around the world right now. We'll send the rest of them out over the next few days. Most are going to Southwest Asia. We'll send a few to Southeast Asia, and then the rest will go to North Africa or one-off locations. The subcomponent of AF4Gen that they're helping is the Expeditionary Air Base, and XAB 24.1 is now out the door. We're rolling in this, and we're moving towards it, and I need you to help me pivot to make this a part of what we do as a wing. You're also going to hear us over the next couple of months talk more about ACE staffs. I'm going to tee up Mission Command for you on the next slide. You've heard Agile Combat Employment, and that's a big challenge for us when we think about how we move our capabilities, how we move our warfighters, and how we survive in an extremely dangerous potential fight in the Pacific. That's the operational concept that we're going to have to execute in order to fight and win in a place like the Pacific Theater. Multi-capable airmen is another hot topic for us right now. I know the wing touched on it a bit in their last readiness exercise, but I can tell you this, the one thing that you need to remember is have a good attitude, because we're going to force you out of your comfort zone. We're going to ask you to do things that you are not trained for, and we're going to expect you to think and move on the fly to get a job done. Let's go to the next slide. In my hand here, I have Air Force Doctrine Publication 1-1 titled Mission Command. I sent all of this to you in a mission type order just a couple of weeks ago. If you get an email from one each Colonel Timothy Monroe, it would be good for you to read it. The last one that I sent you has this digitally inside of that email. The Chief of Staff of the Air Force has officially published it, and this is what we are moving out on. It is a leadership philosophy. We're going to talk to you more about this in the coming weeks and months, because it is not a simple concept, and it is something that is going to drive significant culture change in what we do as a warfighting institution. It is about how we provide commander's intent, how we create a shared understanding, move with disciplined initiative, and do all of that based off of trust that we have with the person to our left and to our right. Much more to follow on these things. Next slide. I'm going to tie all that together by saying that, and this is my official announcement to our community leaders, effective today, we have released a revised strategy for the 319th Reconnaissance Wing. We've got it hung on our publicly available webpage. We'll send all of this to you in a mission type order this weekend so that you can read it when you're back in the office next week. And these are the things that are the top level components. The mission for this wing has not changed. We will provide combat ready airmen and air power to the fight. The vision has been updated to provide innovative airmen delivering warfighter advantage now and creating enduring advantage for America's future. But all of those things get tied together in what is our purpose together, and that is the desired end state. A combat credible force ready and able to defeat threats identified in the National Defense Strategy, most especially China and Russia. Let me talk to you briefly about the lines of effort. Those are the 4 different columns that you see there. Let's start on your left. The first one is to be ready to fight and win. I have 2 sacred obligations as a wing commander. Number 1, it's to make sure that you are prepared to do our nation's warfighting business. That's hard. And that's why I employ great group commanders and their chiefs, and great squadron commanders and their respected senior enlisted leaders. We are here to make sure that you are ready to go out the door to fight and win. But that takes a lot of work to make those things happen. That segment of the strategy is the most important, which is why it's to the left. Let's step over to the next one. Grow ready and resilient airmen and families. The second sacred obligation that I have is to make sure that everybody that's left behind, if we have to go, or for those of you that are going to be here because we are employed in place, is to look after you and make sure that you are ready and resilient and to take care of your families. On that previous chart where you saw the global picture, we've got just over 2,200 airmen in this wing. By the time we add in dependents, we're up over 4,000. By the time you add in all of the other veterans that are in the local area that need to come onto the installation to use the commissary, pick up things at the pharmacy, we're over 8,000 people. That's the second part of my job, is to make sure all 8,000 of those people are taken care of. That's a big deal. Let's go to number 3, champion innovation. We're really fortunate that we've got things like the North Spark Defense Lab on this installation, but I'll tell you what, that's a great tool, but the best tool is the one that's between all of our ears, and our ability to think, our ability to share ideas. When you read that portion of the strategy that I sent to you, you're going to see language in there to the effect of, we want to foster an environment that celebrates all ideas and lets the best ones win, because that's what we're going to need from all of you to outpace our adversaries. And then the fourth and final one is to build lasting partnerships. This is focused on 2 pieces. Number 1, our relationship with the community, and number 2, all of the other entities that we support that are on this installation. From organizations like industry on the enhanced use lease, or things like the Space Development Agency and Customs and Border Protection that we have on this side of the base. Those are national security imperatives, making sure Test Resource Management Center and the way that we look at accelerating the test for hypersonic missiles, that's part of what happens on the other side of the base. And the Space Development Agency and all of those LEO satellites that we're putting up in orbit will be operated from Grand Forks Air Force Base. That is now a priority for this wing, which is why it's built into this strategy. Part of Mission Command is commander's intent. This is my commander's intent for all of us. When I send it to you, I need you to read it. Your commanders and your senior enlisted leaders will be the ones to translate it for you and turn it into individual action items. And I look forward to seeing the great things that we do together. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to bring the chief back up here, but there are a few things that I'm going to talk to you before we take some questions. There are a couple of miscellaneous things that are on my mind that I want to make sure that I've shared with you before we part ways this weekend. The first is attitude. The chief mentioned to you that we've been on the job together for just over 100 days. We've flown from the Pacific back here to this part of the country. We've had the chance to, prior to coming to Grand Forks, to go and visit the team down at Robbins. We've done virtual immersions with the team in the European theater, and we are extremely proud to be a part of this organization and all of the work that you do. But we cannot rest on our laurels nor accept the status quo. What's going to get us to the next thing is having the right attitude. The right attitude about how we take care of each other, the right attitude about how we apply things like Mission Command into our organizational culture, and the right attitude that this is a war-fighting installation. Make no mistake, we project power from this installation, and you and your respective technical competencies help us to do that every single day. I shared with the team earlier this morning that the other thing that makes me proud is the fact that I'm looking at a lot of members of our wing who have chosen to volunteer. You put your hand up. We intentionally wove into your intel brief key verbiage out of things like the Constitution of the United States. And it's important for us to center up on those things. When you come onto this installation every day and you enter the place that you're going to execute your mission, You do not come here to do a job. You come here to serve your country. And by serving your country, you are part of the profession of arms. And I trust that you can get that straight in your mind the way that I do in my mind, that that is a sacred responsibility. It is honorable. There are a lot of things and conversations and noise that happen in this world outside of us. But the one thing that I think that our country can look up to is its military. You represent that. You're going to represent that to those generals and senators that will be here on Tuesday. You will represent that when you are met by an inspector who says, show me what you do here. Tell me where you've got problems and how we can help. And you do that every single day when you leave this installation and you go out into the community in the greater Grand Forks area. That is an honorable thing, but it's something not to be taken lightly. So the chief and I are going to answer a couple of questions for you. The questions have been received from various folks. There was a way for you to submit these questions, so we got these from a number of you that I'm going to answer. Go ahead.
The first one, sir, is a question about all the giant dumpsters that are around the base filled with trash and stuff. What's with the purge?
Okay, for those that are guests, we've been doing a little house cleaning on this installation. In fact, it's a lot of house cleaning. I got asked this question in a forum the other day, sir, why are you making us take out all the trash? My response is twofold. Number one, I shouldn't have to answer that question for you, but I will. But I'm going to answer it in the form of a story. About a month after I took command, we hosted Senator Hoeven, that's one of our 2 U.S. senators, on the installation to announce a new component to the Space Development Agency mission. As a matter of fact, I was sitting right next to the mayor. Once we announced that mission, we took the senator and the director of the Space Development Agency on a walk back through the facilities that we were going to sign over to SDA and then eventually turn into a test and checkout center. Top secret classified facility, doing some of the most important space-based defense missions of our time. And you can imagine my surprise when I had not been on the pre-walkthrough of where we were going to go and turn the corner into a room with all of these distinguished visitors, cameras in tow, and the room was full of garbage. Some of the trash, as we've been able to figure out, was more than 20 years old. It was so bad that a young member of our public affairs was trying to figure out how to get the right angle for the picture, and she was trying to figure out how to step up on these piles of trash to take the picture, and I eventually said, stop. This is embarrassing. I just happen to be in a position to change that. The same way that all of you do. This is our house. And if you want to set the tone, then we start by cleaning up our house. Because if we turn a blind eye to a pile of trash, then it likely means that we're doing some other things that we ought not to. Sweeping something under the rug, disrespecting somebody who's part of our team, not getting the mentality locked in that we need to be thinking about how we fight and win. That's why we've been cleaning up. That's why we put money towards dumpsters, and that's why, in my judgment, it was an appropriate use of airmen's time.
A big piece of that, too, was the DRMO question. So as these facilities were drawn down and furniture was stored and desks were emptied into boxes and things were put aside, normally there's a DRMO process, right, for things around the installation that we get rid of. Well, there are significant challenges at this base when it comes to routing things through the DRMO process. So a little bit of analysis paralysis probably 20 years ago when it came time to look at how we push things out. And there just comes a time when we got to say, if we can't get the DRMO thing figured out. This stuff is obviously not reusable. So get the contract, get the dumpsters, purge the trash.
I can take it first. Still need this? No. Next one. What keeps you up at night from a wing perspective?
Okay, so what keeps us up at night? Well, for me, the two things that are always on my give a crap meter, like I said earlier, are the mission and the airmen. Personally, for keeping up at night, it's more the airman side. So like many of us, I've worked with folks throughout my career that are no longer with us, either by accident or suicide or something of the like. Knowing that we're 4,000 people on this installation, 8,000 that in some way in this community are connected to this base, and we're heading into winter and the holiday season, every holiday season, I think about the folks that are going through hard times, think about, do we have the people in place so people could talk to who they need to talk to be in the right frame of mind through the holiday season and through the winter. I also think about our deployers. I'm a 7-time deployer. I know what it's like. I know the stressors. I think about our first-time deployers that are going out, the headspace that they're in and their families that stay behind. And recently thinking about what we learned at AFA, China doesn't want a war. We don't want a war, but we're both ready for it if necessary, and what that means for our airmen.
Okay, this will be the last answer, and then we're going to part ways because I know some of you need to get over to pick kids up at the CDC. Can you pull up the slide that Intel had that has the airplanes and the missiles and that kind of thing on it for me? Okay, again, the question is, what keeps you up at night? Every time that the chief and I go to a conference, we talk about these things at the classified level. Let me refresh your memory on what you're looking at on this chart. This is Chinese air and missile capabilities mapped out against U.S. Air Force air and missile capabilities. Just by basic picture, you might understand how dangerous this is. We talk about this at highly classified levels when we're on the road, because it influences the way that we think about problems, and then we turn that around and we come back and we talk to you, and most especially your commanders, to frame the leadership approach that we are charged with. This is going to be the most significant thing that I tell you today, so I would ask that you just look at my face for a moment. If we fight this conflict, people are going to die. As a nation, I would contend we are not ready for that. As a military, it is our job to be ready for that. We need for you to have that straight in your head, so when I talk to you about attitude, when I talk to you about listening and following the instructions and the guidance that your commanders are giving you, it is to prepare us in the pieces that we are responsible for to go here if we have to and fight and win. Help me do that. But we do that together as a team. We do that together as a wing. That's why I'm proud to be a Griffin. Okay, if you haven't been in a room with us when we wrap up sessions like this, we think about the phrase that's written in Latin on the patch on our shoulder. So I'm going to give you some basic instruction. Translated into English, it is defenders of liberty. So we're going to practice that as a team. The other cool part about being in an old hangar like this is that the noise reverberates. So the louder you are, the more intense the reverberation in this hangar. So this is what it sounds like. I'm going to say defenders, but I'm going to say it pretty loud. What I'm going to ask is that you match my intensity. When I say defenders, you pop up and you respond back to me with of liberty. Can we do that? We're really proud of you. Thank you for what you do to serve our nation. Thank you for wearing the uniform and being loyal to a cause that is higher than oneself. Let's have a great weekend. Let's rock the tours with the generals. Let's crush this UEI, and let's go on to bigger and better things for this wing. Defenders! You're dismissed.